But let's turn to the opposite of continuing resolution in terms of the sort of the adrenaline behind it is the term black Nazi. And I want to talk about the North Carolina race kind of upended. It's not as if Mark Robinson, the Republican nominee, until this week was thought of as a judicious, thoughtful. I mean, he's been anti-Semitic and misogynistic and all sorts of bad things. But McKay, it's your job to tell us what black Nazi means in the context of this race and what it means for the race.
It's not an ideology I've spent a lot of time studying, but...
Understood.
But, well, I think it's important to give some context to who Mark Robinson is before this story came out from CNN, right? Even before this, he has a long history of comments. I wrote down just some of them. He's denied the Holocaust. He's called Sandy Hook shooting victims media prostitutes. He has called women who have abortions murderers. He has a long history.
Prostitutes?
I didn't actually know if I could say that on PBS. I
you probably can't.
Asked. Sorry.
Actually, you probably can't.
Right.
I've never even heard it before.
But these are...
he is the nominee of the Republican Party of North Carolina for the governorship.
And everybody in the state, in the state Republican Party knew that he had said these things. He doesn't actually have a lot of fans in the establishment Republican wing of this party, but they are also powerless to stop him. When he ran in the primary, in the gubernatorial Republican primary, Republicans came out, they tried to stop him. There was a lot of money spent on ads against him. Sitting office holders endorsed his opponent. It went nowhere. He rode a kind of populist Trumpian wave into the nomination. And then you have the CNN story drop this week that he has apparently on a pornography website's message board made a series of further inflammatory, I don't think, let's not be euphemistic, anti-Semitic, racist comments.
Referring to himself as a
black Nazi,
right?
He's also, said a lot of other things that probably are not worth discussing on PBS. But my point is, what's interesting is that when this story was about to break, you had what looked like a pretty concerted leak campaign by Republican operatives and other Republicans in the state that looked designed to try to push him out. They were hoping that he would drop out. He said, first of all, he denied that he made these comments on this message board, but he also said he's not dropping out. And I think that you see kind of in this story, it's kind of a microcosm of a few different forces that have been at work in the Republican Party in the Trump era. One is that Donald Trump, as a national figure, has had this kind of mass desensitizing effect on the electorate and especially on Republican primary voters, where comments that would have been disqualifying, 10 years ago are just not anymore. People have a much lower or a much higher tolerance for inflammatory, incendiary rhetoric.
They kind of write it off and say it's just
the media is making too big of a deal about this. He's not politically correct. Who cares? I mean, denying the Holocaust should, in another era, would have been disqualifying in either party. The other thing that's happening, though, is that the institutional party it's just been enfeebled. It's weakened, right? They're hollowed out. They don't have the power that they used to. And I think there's a third thing, which is, a lot of people talk about, and I think it's kind of euphemistic, this being a candidate quality problem that the Republicans are having. And I think that that's true. But I think what's really happening is there's kind of a brain drain that's happened in the Republican Party. There are a lot of reasonable, smart, competent, patriotic people who are conservatives in this country. Good luck trying to get them to run for office in the Trump era. It's not that they don't still have conservative views, but they don't want to be associated with this version of the Republican Party. You've seen a huge number of them leave Congress, retire in recent years, and I think that's what Mark Robinson is a symptom of that.
Right. So just to follow up on that, I mean, how obviously, or let's not say complete, but it seems fairly obvious that Josh Stein, the Democratic nominee, is going to win this race. For the last several cycles, the Republicans, or the establishment of the Republican Party, has bemoaned the quality of recruitment. Any lessons learned? Is this cycle at all better than previous cycles?
I feel like we heard some of those same questions and same sort of bemoaning from establishment Republicans during the midterms as well.
Yeah.
And and before that too. I mean, we continue to see, though, a couple weeks after the midterms, you once again fall in line and start to support candidates that, present Trumpism, that do present, defamatory comments and are able to, stoke divisions and energize Trump's base. So I think we've heard that a little bit before, and I'm not sure unless, depending on really the results of the presidential election, as long as Trump is still the leading candidate, for the Republican Party, and still the leader of the Republican Party, if you look at the past couple years, I don't think that we've seen that criticism around candidates and sort of Trump's picked candidates not being up to win. Those criticisms haven't held weight. Right. It hasn't really, especially when you put it up against what the former president wants.
Right.
Well, one thing that's interesting is there's all this talk about candidate quality and the Trump-like candidates like Mark Robinson, who Trump endorsed. But then
Trump actually called him Martin Luther King on steroids.
Better than Martin Luther King.
Right. Better than Martin
which we now know that Mark Robinson despised Martin Luther King. But anyway, so in the Senate, down ballot in the Senate, McConnell wanted good quality candidates to take back the Senate. He thought he had that this year. And now all of these more traditional Republican candidates who are running in a lot of these battleground states are running far behind Trump. And so you might have a candidate quality problem of people who can't get elected in a more general election on the Republican side because they are too close to Trump. But then you have Republicans who are more mainstream who also aren't getting elected because they are not in line with the Republican base.
Well, and I would just add quickly that, when I talk to Republicans, the thing that they've written off the North Carolina governorship. They don't think they're going to win. The thing that they're afraid of is a reverse coattails effect in North Carolina, where Robinson being on the ballot will actually drag down Trump.
And give Kamala Harris a better
crucial
shot.
swing.
A better shot.